What if everything you've been taught about being a good person is a lie? What if the advice to always be available to answer every call, to explain every decision, to please everyone around you is the very thing draining your power, your peace, your soul? Society has sold you a myth that accessibility makes you lovable, that reacting to every slight makes you strong, that giving all of yourself makes you worthy. But let me hit you with a truth that might sting. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you react to someone's provocation, every time you let someone cross your boundaries, you're not being good, you're being controlled. You're not here to be everyone's emotional punching bag. You're not here to shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But how can you do that when you're constantly giving your power away? Today, I'm going to show you the hidden power of being unattainable, of stepping into your strength, your mystery, your sovereignty. This isn't just a talk, this is a wake-up call. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll never see yourself the same way again. So what does it really mean to be unattainable? Let's dive into the psychology. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, talked about individuation, the journey of becoming your authentic self, by breaking free from society's expectations. When you're always accessible, always reacting, always explaining, you're not individuating, you're conforming, you're letting the world dictate your emotions, your actions, your worth. But when you become unattainable, you flip the script, you stop being a puppet and you start being a master. Being unattainable doesn't mean shutting people out or hiding behind walls. It means building a fortress around your inner peace. It means choosing when to engage, when to speak, when to walk away. Think about the most magnetic people you've ever met, those who command respect without even trying. They don't overshare. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't bend over backwards to please others. Why? Because they've mastered the art of mystery. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there's any reaction, both are transformed. But when you're always the one reacting, you're the only one being transformed into someone you're not." Let me paint you a picture. I once knew a woman named Clara, a quiet artist who never chased attention. She didn't explain her work, didn't beg for approval. Yet, at every gallery opening, people flocked to her not because she demanded it, but because her unattainability made her magnetic. She wasn't trying to be seen. She was just being herself. And that authenticity drew people in like a moth to a flame. Here's the deeper truth. Humans are drawn to what they can't fully grasp. The unattainable creates intrigue, desire, respect. When you stop giving away your emotions, your time, your energy, people start to see you differently. They sense your strength. They feel your boundaries. They respect your silence. But this isn't just about how others see you, it's about how you see yourself. When you become unattainable, you stop living for others and start living for you. You reclaim the power to define your worth, your path, your peace. That's the greatest strength you'll ever know. Think of it as a quiet rebellion, a refusal to let the world dictate your value. When you embrace this power, you step into a new realm of freedom, where your inner peace becomes untouchable, and your presence commands respect without a single word. Let's talk about the cost of reactivity. Every time you explode in anger, every time you rush to justify your actions, every time you feel the need to prove yourself, you're handing over your power on a silver platter. Reactivity is a trap. It's the opposite of self-mastery. When you react, you're not in control. The person who provoked you is. They've pressed your buttons, and you've danced to their tune. And the more you dance, the tighter their grip becomes. But imagine this. What if you stopped dancing? What if you stood still, unshakable, and let their words fall to the ground, like leaves in the wind? That's where your true power begins. Let me tell you about Sarah. She had a friend named Emma, friend who was toxic in every sense of the word. Emma would criticize Sarah, guilt-trip her, manipulate her into doing things she didn't want to do. Sarah always reacted. She'd apologize for things that weren't her fault. She'd explain herself endlessly, hoping Emma would understand. She'd try to fix things, even when Emma was the one in the wrong. But the more Sarah reacted, the more Emma pushed. Until one day, Sarah stopped. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She didn't try to fix anything. She just walked away, and you know what happened? Emma panicked. She couldn't handle Sarah's silence. She couldn't control someone who refused to react. In that moment, Sarah became unattainable and she took back her power. That silence, that refusal to engage, was her greatest weapon. It taught her that true strength isn't in the fight, it's in the choice to walk away. Sarah found her peace, her purpose, and a strength she never knew she had. Here's another story. James, a guy in his 20s, grew up in a family that expected him to always say yes. When his parents demanded he take over the family business, he felt trapped. He wanted to be a writer, but every time he tried to say no, his family guilt-tripped him. "You're selfish," they'd say. "You owe us." James would react, he'd argue, he'd explain. He'd try to prove his worth. But the more he reacted, the more they controlled him. Until one day, he stopped. He didn't argue. He didn't explain. He just said, "I'm choosing my path," and walked away. His family was stunned. They didn't know how to handle his silence. And in that silence, James found his freedom. For the first time, James felt the weight of their expectations lift off his shoulders. He realized that his silence wasn't weakness, it was a declaration of his independence, a reclaiming of his voice as a writer, and a step toward the life he'd always dreamed of. These stories reveal a universal truth. Reactivity keeps you small. It keeps you dependent on others' approval. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of emotional chaos. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "We are disturbed not by events, but by our opinions about them." When you react, you're letting someone else's actions define your reality. You're letting their words, their judgments, their expectations control how you feel. But when you stop reacting, you break that cycle. You step into a new realm of self-control, a realm where you decide what deserves your energy, your attention, your peace. In that realm, you become the architect of your own reality. You no longer bend to the chaos of others' expectations. Instead, you stand firm, rooted in your own truth, letting only what aligns with your purpose touch your soul. Being unattainable isn't just about silence, it's about letting go. Letting go of the need to be understood. Letting go of the need to be liked. Letting go of relationships, habits, and beliefs that no longer serve you. Carl Jung called this shadow integration, facing the parts of yourself you've suppressed, like your fear of rejection, your fear of being alone, your fear of not being enough. Your shadow isn't something to fear, it's the part of you that holds your deepest truths. When you suppress it, you live a life of pretense, always trying to be what others expect. But when you integrate it, you embrace your authenticity. And that's where unattainability comes in. It's the act of letting go of what's not you, so you can become who you truly are. This transformation isn't just a moment, it's a journey. It's the courage to face your shadows, to release the fears that hold you back, and to step into a life where you are fully, unapologetically yourself. Letting go is hard. It feels like you're losing something. But here's the deeper truth. Letting go isn't loss, it's liberation. Imagine you're holding onto a rope that's burning your hands. The rope is a toxic relationship, a draining job, a need for validation. The longer you hold on, the more it hurts. But when you let go, the pain stops. You're free. And here's the paradox. The more you let go, the more you gain. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain peace. Let me tell you about Maria, a single mom who spent years trying to win her ex-husband's approval. Even after their divorce, she'd send long messages, trying to prove she was a good mother, hoping he'd see her worth. But every time she reached out, he'd ignore her or belittle her. Maria felt broken. Then, one day, she decided to let go. She stopped texting. She stopped seeking his approval. She focused on herself and her daughter. At first, it felt terrifying, like she was giving up. But over time, she realized she wasn't giving up. She was gaining freedom. By letting go, Maria became unattainable not to her ex, but to the version of herself that needed his validation. And in that unattainability, she found her strength. Maria discovered a new version of herself, one that was whole, unshaken by others' opinions. She learned that her worth wasn't tied to her ex's approval, but to the love she gave herself and her daughter, a love that bloomed in the space she created by letting go. Here's something you can do right now to start letting go. Grab a piece of paper and write down 3 things in your life that drain your energy. Maybe it's a person who always makes you feel small. Maybe it's a habit, like obsessively checking social media for likes. Maybe it's a belief, like thinking you're not enough unless everyone approves of you. Now, for each thing, ask yourself these questions. What would happen if I let this go? What's the worst that could happen? What's the best? If the worst is fear, like fear of being alone, ask yourself, can I handle that? Most of the time, you'll realize you can. And the best might be freedom, peace, a life where you're not constantly weighed down. Now, take one small step today to let go of one of those things. Say no to a request that doesn't feel right. Mute that person on social media who always brings you down. Forgive yourself for not being perfect. That small act of letting go will set you free. Each time you take that step, you're rewriting your story. You're telling yourself, I am enough, just as I am. And with every release, you'll feel lighter, stronger, more aligned with the life you were meant to live. When you become unattainable, the world shifts around you. People who once manipulated you lose their grip. They can't handle your silence, your boundaries, your strength. People who once overlooked you start to notice you. They're drawn to your mystery, your self-assuredness, your peace. But the biggest transformation happens within you. You stop reacting and start responding with intention, with clarity, with power. Nietzsche once said, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. But I'd add, that which you let go of makes you unstoppable. Because in letting go, you shed the weight of others' expectations. You rise above the noise, the doubt, the fear, and you step into a power that no one can take away. A power that radiates from within. Let's go back to Clara, the artist I told you about. After years of being unattainable in her quiet way, she didn't just gain respect at gallery openings. She gained something deeper, self-respect. She stopped needing others to validate her work, her worth, her existence. She painted for herself, not for applause. And ironically, the less she sought approval, the more the world admired her. That's the paradox of unattainability. When you stop needing others to see you, they start seeing you in a whole new light. Here's the deepest value of unattainability. It's not just about power, it's about love, self-love. When you become unattainable, you're saying to the world, I love myself enough to protect my peace. I love myself enough to set boundaries. I love myself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve me. And that act of self-love radiates outward, attracting people who respect you, who value you, who see you for who you truly are. You're no longer a pawn in someone else's game. You're the one writing the rules. Being unattainable isn't about isolation, it's about sovereignty. It's about becoming the master of your own mind, your own emotions, your own life. It's about realizing that you've always had the power, you just needed to stop giving it away. So, I'll leave you with a challenge. For the next 24 hours, practice unattainability. Don't react to every provocation. Don't explain yourself to people who don't deserve your words. Don't hold on to things that hurt you. Just for one day, choose yourself. If this message resonates with you, I want to hear from you in the comments. Write, I am unattainable and I am enough. Let's build a community of people who are ready to reclaim their power, their peace, their purpose. If this talk spoke to your soul, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the psychology of self-mastery. Because this isn't the end, it's the beginning of your journey to becoming who you were always meant to be. I'll leave you with a silence that holds space for your transformation.